Who'd be the Queen, eh? There she is, all set to celebrate yet another Jubilee year. Speeches, events, loyal subjects asked to create a platinum pudding. Not literally. And there'll be a couple more roomfuls of tat provided by local councils who reckon the thing she really needs in 2022 is yet another silver salver. Many of these are destined to turn up on the Antiques Roadshow in 2099. The trays, that is, not the puddings. Some naive sprog will arrive with the story of a treasured family heirloom gifted to a grandparent or aunt out of royal gratitude. The experts are, of course, far too polite to mention that the item was undoubtedly half-inched 50 years previous. But since the police no longer investigate crimes committed in the past, there's nothing can be done. It always struck me as a mistake when the Met decommissioned their time machine, doubling as a police box TARDIS division. Still, it's a great year ahead. Or maybe not. At the end of another Jubilee year, 1992, Her Majesty complained of an annus horribilis. That's a horrid year for those not familiar with the Queen's English. It was the year when stories of royal toe-sucking and divorce hit the press. A fire burnt down a chunk of Windsor Castle. The fact that this followed the arrival of yet another half-dozen lovingly engraved platters, tea trays, and assorted knickknacks is wholly unconnected. As, too, the rumour that Her Majesty was subsequently seen checking the small print of her insurance policy and humming "One's in the money." Could 2022 possibly be worse? Well, yes. There's a tell-all autobiography in the works from Prince Unhappily Ever After Harry, and just this week a US court declared it would be hearing accusations of sexual abuse against Prince Not-So-Charming Andrew. Her Majesty moved faster than a cat on a hot palace roof, stripping Andrew of his titles and cancelling his Netflix account. Now he'll have to stream it illegally like everyone else. She's also ordered the rewriting of an old favourite nursery rhyme. "Oh, the grand old Duke of York, he had 10,000 men." Well, now he doesn't. Andrew is, of course, surprised and hurt to find himself painted as the black sheep of the family. After all, in his book, he is much more used to the racist slurs being targeted at the prince who had the bad manners to marry a woman of mixed race, whereas he was merely continuing a centuries-old tradition of royals ignoring the laws whenever it suited them. And when that didn't work, they just set up a church to say they were right all along. "But, Mum, Uncle Eddie kept his title after he abdicated, and he was mates with Hitler." "Mum, King Henry wasn't too fussy about the age of his wives." Or even, "Mum, great-great-great-great-great-grandma was ruler of a global empire based on slavery and the exploitation of indigenous peoples, and no one complains about that." That last, of course, is a thing. The idea that Prince Andrew can spell exploitation, let alone has any sort of understanding of the politics of monarchy, is on a par with asking the late lamented Prince Philip to give a TED talk on driving safety. As far as Andrew is concerned, being royal was always a lifetime ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Absolutely no double entendre in his books, mostly because he does not possess a French dictionary. Her Majesty will sigh and point out that while she can literally get away with murder in the UK, her powers in America have somewhat diminished ever since that little unpleasantness over the Boston Tea Party. It is amazing how much unpleasantness can begin with a simple tea party. Just ask Boris Johnson. Still, it is a bit unfair. The Queen knew that storm clouds were brewing ever since her beloved son felt the need to demonstrate a clean break with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein by flying to New York and spending several days at his private apartment explaining his own convictions, or at least arranging an alibi for them. She must too have had her doubts when, following strenuous denials by the prince that he had ever met his accuser Virginia Giuffre, a picture turned up of a happy smiling Andrew with his arm around her waist. Ironically, of course, it is Andrew's lawyers who are now insinuating that Ms. Giuffre suffers from false memory syndrome. The Queen knew something. She just preferred not to know what she knew, which makes sympathy for her just that bit harder to muster. As for Andrew, he is but the latest in a very long line of Windsor black sheep. His crime, though, is not what he did, or with whom in some dim and distant past. It is the fact that he has embarrassed his family in public. For that there is no forgiveness, not even in a Jubilee year.